Greetings, everyone. My name is Tamah Yisrael, and I consider myself a lifetime cooperator. My family and I are involved in creating several cooperative endeavors, and we encourage you to join in with us this moment to learn a little bit about our cooperative history.
Shine your light, sis, please shine your light. Shine your light, sis, please shine your light. Shine your light, sis, please shine your light.
We just observed the Juneteenth celebration, which is an upliftment and celebration of Black liberation. Well, in thinking about and reflecting on this history about Juneteenth, one cannot miss the ideas and the takeaways that came from the enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation was one of the many instruments that supported Black liberation in a slavery era of the United States, but also want to lift out the understanding that just because President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation did not mean that the slave owners that held people enslaved was the moment that liberation took place. Today, I want to share how there was a collective strategy that supported that movement of liberation during that era, as well as the collective need for a strategy today to liberate Black communities in the same level. Let's take a journey. So on January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. It was during a 2-year military campaign that took place where a regiment of Black soldiers, Union soldiers, who had volunteered to be members of the Union Army, marched from the Carolinas to South Texas. It took them 2 years, and throughout that journey, this relatively small force of Black soldiers freed enslaved people on a countless number of slave plantations across the South during their journey. From that, by the time they reached Galveston, which was in June 1865, which today we celebrate this day as Juneteenth, General Granger, along with 1,800 volunteer Union Black soldiers, took Galveston and freed the enslaved population in that area. By January of 1866, approximately 20,000 of the soldiers that had organized after this battle at Galveston had populated the Gulf states and set up intentional communities. It was these intentional communities that laid the way for many people to seek and meet their own needs in the post-slavery era of America. Now, we have to remember that during that time, Black people who were recently freed were not property owners. They did not have access to the resources except for the resources that they had available on the land mass that they occupied and called home. It was through their collective practices in their organizing that they were able to do shared farming practices, set up shared marketplaces, as well as ways to meet family needs by providing collective child care and safety for those intentional communities. Now, if that is not an indication of strong cooperation and cooperative practices, I don't know what else to call it. But I want to lift out this story because it is this level of organizing that needs to take place today to liberate and free communities of color this very day. Now, of course, post-slavery, there were intentional free Black communities. Well, today, we need the same intentionality in our communities. When we see communities that are faced with crime, issues of safety, education is not readily available in the same level that they are in other communities, that same level of intentionality is needed in our communities today. So what are cooperatives, you ask? Well, cooperatives are an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, cultural needs and aspirations. Now, cooperatives were tools in the early 1800s, even during post-slavery for black communities, but also communities in England that needed access to marketplaces and resources to meet their own social and cultural needs. Well, I assert to you today that cooperatives can be a tool for the same level of organizing in black communities. Now, we see that there is a disparagement of economic opportunities in communities, in black communities across the country. In places like Detroit, where the auto industry once resided, you see now a depletion of opportunity, as well as areas like Dayton, Ohio, New Orleans, Louisiana, Los Angeles, California, where there were once major industries and access to resources. The leaving of those industries left the communities that they once occupied wanting for opportunity. Well, I assert to you today that through collective and cooperative action, we can create our own opportunity. Cooperative businesses need to be organized locally and nationally, and enterprises that are designed to meet the needs of the community that they reside in are more prevalent or more needed today than anything. So in your home and community, consider this. How could your community benefit from having more community-based ownership? As we see in our world today, most of our resources, most of the ownership is held by a small portion of the population. Ownership is a model that cooperatives bring about. And so I encourage you to ask yourselves, how does community ownership pave way for intentional community design? Economic opportunity. In recent years, there has been a noticeable uptick in black-owned businesses. However, many of these black-owned businesses face many challenges, such as being under-resourced or even under-supported. Through cooperative practices and organizing with those that have like minds, like energies, those resources become a lot easier. The skill and the talents that are needed to run the business become more available, as well as the noticeable support from people who believe in cooperative practices is also a necessity. So I encourage you to consider and develop cooperative businesses as a way of adding business ownership to the model of intentional community design. And again, we lifted out in today's topic around access to resources and capital. There is a new emergence of policy and lenders that are looking at alternative ways of capitalizing businesses. As well as through collective ownership, you expand your access to capital beyond your individual restrictions, and adding on those who believe and are like-minded in business, their ability to bring on capital. So cooperatives are a way that we expand that. I want to lift out and acknowledge all the people who are thinking cooperatively today, and I want to encourage people in community that business ownership, community ownership, and liberation are all aligned in the same thread of thought. And for us to change our own paradigm, we need to link together with these ideas, these concepts, and figure out ways through cooperation that we can change our own paradigm.